Hi everyone, my name is Noelle Falcis Math, and I am a literary agent with the Transatlantic Literary Agency. We are a North American boutique agency based in Toronto, but I myself am based in Los Angeles. Okay, so what I'm looking for in my query inbox for 2025 is ultimately speculative fiction. My primary focus is going to be literary spec, but I am open to a larger category. So whether that is commercial spec, upmarket spec, so long as there's some sort of element that adds to the grounded nature of the narrative, I will be very happy. Some specific themes on that fiction front. I am always very, very interested, first and foremost, about prioritizing authors of marginalized identities. Beyond that, I'm very much interested in narratives that deal with immigrant mothers and their daughters. I love anything exploring sort of like the softness of siblinghood, also the complexity of siblinghood as well. Sisterhood narratives are something always of interest to me. I have been on the lookout for a very good campus novel from a BIPOC protagonist or perspective. Some new things I've added to my list, but like I'm very much so desiring, is I am really trying to take on a whole lot of island narratives right now. Any sort of island, if there's an ocean involved, any sort of watery body, I will be very, very happy. And what else? Underbelly of the beauty industry or the wellness industry is something of interest. Anything that sort of captures a millennial zeitgeist. I am interested in sort of like a dark comedy about millennial life or even like influencer culture. I think that's a nice bookend to that underbelly of beauty and wellness. And that would be fiction. I'm also looking for cozy plus. I'm trying to take on some feel-good narratives that are sort of like low stimulation reads that make you happy at the end of the day. And that's fiction. On the nonfiction side, I always take out sort of critical cultural works. So that could be essay collections, it could be memoirs, it could be narrative nonfiction, it could be self-help or relationships or advice or self-care. And inside those various spaces, I do ask that that's sort of submitted by folks that are experts in their field. So whether that's like an academic making the transition or a cultural practitioner that could teach us their perspective, or somebody who's sort of done communal work inside, whatever field that they're in, like that's something, or a journalist that's been on this beat for X amount of years, like that's all something of interest to me. The one thing I will say across nonfiction and fiction is that I'm very open to experimentation. So I do actively look for experimental forms, whether that is in the writing, if it's in the content, risk taking, genre blending, form, experimentation. That's all things that just make my brain sort of tickle and I love. So when I say speculative plus or cozy plus, it's essentially saying that like primarily I want something that's speculative. Primarily I want something that's cozy. But that plus sign that I sort of add there is like, what is the secondary field or the secondary space that is existing in? Literary, upmarket, women's, commercial. So if you had a speculative novel that's existing in the upmarket space, or a speculative novel that reads very literary, very lush in its prose, or you have, again, speculative narrative that has a commercial genre appeal. So that plus makes space for essentially what marketing space it exists in, what bookshelf, right? Where the bookshelf it's going to be living on. And then same thing for cozy plus as well. So we're seeing a lot of works out there that, you know, the calmness of the coffee shop or the calmness of a journey. And then the plus there, it might be like this is cozy set in sort of like a fantasy realm, or this is cozy, but it's also like a thriller slash suspense novel or a detective novel, or this is cozy plus sort of like a food narrative, where this is, whether it's a chef or a barista or something of that nature. Anything in that realm, that's certainly a big ask actually for me for 2025. My number one tip for writers ultimately is to be confident inside your narrative. I think so many times we have instances of writers writing towards a trend or writing to fulfill what they think an agent or an editor or a house or an indie or a press will want. A few things you want to keep in mind is a lot of times the books that you're seeing on the shelves, like those are things that were acquired 2, 3 years ago. It's to say that you shouldn't really respond to what's happening in the market. Think about perennially, what do you desire in narrative yourself? What is a book that you wish you read? and then write that book and speak to you and to your own audience, because you don't want to be a copy of something else that's already out there. And two, you're going to be happiest producing 300 plus pages of something that you're really invested in. And the best advice really is to make sure it's something that you really want to be writing for no one else but yourself.